case I made, that I'm sure is correct, is that the primary driver of change in Thailand has been plunging birth rate, right? Unbelievably exponential change in the birth rate. So you can see there, that Philippines has gone down steadily, Japan's been, and Thailand has plunged. And one of the manifestations of this is that, for instance, when I came here, say 2005, and the birth rate going back 25 years was 3.39 children per woman. But 25 years ago today, the birth rate had dropped to 1.87 children per woman. That's in the space of 15 years that it halved. Now that means if they'd stayed at the same birth rate, there would now be twice as many 25-year-olds in Thailand. So you want to know the primary driver of change in Thailand is demographics. Now, I was talking about this to a very dear friend of mine that I made when I was living in Bangkok. We met at an art show, and it turned out we went to the same primary school in Australia, Toongabbie Public School, in different years. And he teaches at university. And and he said, oh yeah, this demographic change, Thai universities now are struggling to fill their classes, meet their quotas and stuff, because there's just so much less people in that age group to go to university. And by the way, if anybody ever says to you about some major change, you've always got to be thinking, well, could demographic change be behind this? For instance, there's some book about how certain countries have become less violent. But part of the reason that is the plunging number of young people. See, most violent acts tend to be committed by people in their late teens and their 20s. So you think, oh, we become less violent. No, we've just got less young people, right? Now, so what do you think if this massive demographic change is the major driver of change in Thailand? What's the second biggest driver of change in Thailand? What do you think? Call something out.
Tourists. Technology. Income. Income.
Consumer credit.
Oh, yes.
The availability of credit. Also for companies, yes, so they can build these massive buildings they shouldn't be building. Oh, we've had all these pre-sales. Don't know what that's going to end up in. But consumer credit, household debt. This is why are there so many cars on the road? Car loans. How much has been driven by the number of cars on the road, all the infrastructure and stuff? Massive change. So this gives you an idea of the exponential growth. Now, the standard way to measure growth in household debt is against gross domestic product, GDP, right? So obviously Thailand's GDP has gone massively up, but even against that massively rising GDP, the percentage of the household debt against that has risen exponentially. And you can see this here. Here's Thailand's 12th on the largest debt, highest household debt to gross domestic product. But look at this. 2005, it was 45% of gross domestic product. And now, in the space of like 10 years, it's gone up to 80%. That is amazing. Now this chart's a little bit confusing, but it actually covers 5 recent years. And you can see here, this is property, and the percentage has tended to drop. Credit cards, it stayed about the same. Personal loans, it's gone down and up. But look at this, auto loans. 2014, there was like no auto loans, and now it's like the biggest aspect of household debt is auto loans. You think this Thai government's not starting to sweat a bit about this? 1,300 factories closed last year, right? Now all those people are going to be defaulting on their household, lost their jobs, they're probably going to be defaulting on their auto loans. So this is one of the biggest worries about a major downturn in the industry. And Yingluck, which she had a scheme to encourage auto purchases, was a tax deduction. And you could get tax credits for auto purchases. And of course, the automobiles are produced here, so it creates jobs, and the big industry likes it, blah, blah, blah. But you know, just hope it's not a house of cards. And also remember, you know, the two ways that people were traditionally enslaved in the past, became slaves. One, of course, through war and conquest, and secondly, through debts they couldn't meet, right? That's how, oh, well, I can't meet my debt, take you as my son as your slave, right? And this, 10 years ago, I met this woman, and I had a friend who fell in love with her and stuff, and the parents in Islam couldn't meet their payments on their truck, so she didn't want to go, but they sort of like pushed her to come down here and join the industry here. So it worked out well because he was stupid for Ram, who built a house, and she met somebody else and married him in Switzerland, but when she came back here, she'd still sleep with my friend. And of course, this whole thing about this consumer credit is that makes possible this terrible overcaring, you know, the McMansions of cars. These ridiculously large cars that they really have no use for, that, you know, four-wheel drives that will never see a dirt road, right? And the other thing, of course, is like, I've never bought a new car in my life. You drive them out of the lot, and they're like dropped by some ridiculous percentage of what they're worth. Now, this is another factor that drives consumer behaviour in Thailand. Thais, almost all Thais, believe in ghosts, right? These are not a fictional, these are a reality. And this is one particular ghost, type of ghost, PM. Did I say that right, Sally? PM? PM? Anyway, never mind. So, whoever here has ever experienced sleep paralysis? This is where you wake up and you can feel your body in the bed, you feel the bed underneath you, but you can't move your body. Right? I've experienced twice when I was a teenager. The first time it happens, it's really disturbing because you think, oh my God, am I paralysed for the rest of my life? Am I going to get buried alive? Well, you know, it's like really, oh my God. And this is a picture of PM, who is this ghost. And a lot of, not just Thais, but other Asians believe you go into sleep paralysis because a ghost sits on your chest, right? And apparently it's more common with men. So if you want to avoid it, Steve, what you do is you put lipstick on when you go to bed, right? So they think it's a woman and the ghost avoids you. See, you've got an excuse now, Ron. Okay? Now, this belief in ghosts really drives Thai consumer behaviour because they don't want to own second-hand, right? Because second-hand could have bad juju, could have been owned by somebody with bad karma who goes to the condo and stuff. So new condo good, condo that's been lived in bad. Same with cars, right? They want new because no bad juju. All right, moving on from that. So looking at other factors that shape Thai culture, of course, until very recently, it was an agricultural culture, right? Very, very agricultural. And still it's the biggest, I think, exporter of rice in the world. And only this is recently changing, and it's the same going back a couple of hundred years. It was the same in the West, in England. Mostly everybody was involved in agriculture. And of course then there was the Industrial Revolution. People flooded to their factories and cities. So this is one of the results in agricultural societies. You work in the fields, you get deep tans. That makes a premium on pale skin. Pale skin is aristocratic. Pale skin means you're rich. Pale skin means you don't work on a farm. Thais love pale skin. It used to be the same in other cultures. So unfortunately Wendy's not here. She asked me this question about, I talked about how during the Vietnam War women were like bussed into, you know, servicemen, sort of, and whether there was a prejudice against them when they went back to the village. And there wasn't really a prejudice against them sleeping with the guys, but of course condoms weren't so widespread, so there's pregnancies. And I'm like, oh my God, you're going to have a baby that's not purely Thai, doesn't have pure Thai blood. And there was a prejudice there was a prejudice against that till the baby was born. And the baby had pale skin. Pale skin is good, right? So then suddenly that prejudice against having a mixed child, half and half, went away in dynasty. The Thai monarchy has been phenomenal in Thailand. I say, you know, if every monarchy had conducted themselves like the Thai monarchy, there'd be a lot more monarchies still in the world, right? They've been amazing. They instituted the end of slavery, they instituted democracy, this guy held the country together, because even though they'd be warring between the yellow shirts and the red shirts, they would still wear symbols of loyalty to the king. The king was amazing. And Dr. Minot says this guy's going, you know, has his own style and is doing very well. Going back to King Rama VI. Now, this guy was very interesting, highly educated, went to educational institutions in Europe, and he decided to change the name of the dynasty to Rama, because he thought his excuse was it's more digestible to English people. But in actual fact, there was another reason behind it. The Ramagian. Who's heard of the Ramagian? The Ramagian is the second biggest influence in Thailand after Buddhism in terms of cultural influence. It's from the Ramayana in India. This is a huge, sprawling myth involving a war between demons and humans. And the Chakri dynasty, changing their name to Rama, was symbolic of the real dedication they had to this myth. They, in a sense, adopted it as the ruling myth of their family. And it's all about, you know, the royalty in it conducts themselves unbelievably honourably in public. Who knows what this is? This is in Jonathan. Hanuman? Hanuman? Hanuman is an excellent answer, but it's also incorrect. But it's actually, notice it has a tail, so it's like a mer monkey rather than a monkey. Hanuman is the warrior, the magical monkey warrior from the Ramagian, and he was a bit of a Jack the Lad, and he actually had sex with a mermaid. I assume it was like, you know, Bathfinder 1,000 baht or something, you know. Anyway, and they had Machanu is a composite of their name. They've actually put up a sign on that junction now that says Machanu, but I wouldn't be getting on a BART bus and saying Jomtien Machanu, because I think it's become fairly standardised as Hanuman. And you'll see this symbol elsewhere. This is just down the road, of course. Machanu again, mer monkey. That's on the top of that building. And the Thai aesthetic for the Ramagian is beautiful. It's much more beautiful than the Indian aesthetic. So we're going to flick through quite a few images here. Look at this, amazing masks. These are, of course, the demons. And in classic Thai fashion, they have Buddhist temples with these demons from a Hindu myth standing out front and guarding and warding off evil spirits, right? This is a really beautiful one in Bangkok. This is beautiful, right? This one of the demons. The demons were very individualised. They had their own characters and names. And also it became these beautiful murals. Some of the great works of art were around in Thailand. Visual art was around the Ramagian. This is the nasty demon Totsukan getting off with Princess Sita. Again, more murals. This is about the war between demons and humans. Now, Nam Yai. Nam Yai. Nam means hide or skin, and Yai obviously means big. And this was a form of, I don't want to say primitive puppetry, but puppetry that evolved in Thailand, where they would make a puppet, as it were, out of this hide of a poor sick buffalo. So there's a lot of them up in this arm and stuff. So they would make a puppet out of that, and then they'd have a screen behind it with a bonfire behind it, and they'd perform it as like shadow puppetry at night. We're going to watch a minute and a bit. See if you can guess what this scene is about. Oh, sorry, I guess it's another more advanced, more recent type of Namyai.
เราจะยกตัวอย่างระหว่างลิงขาวกับลิงดำนะครับลิงขาวคือเป็นฝ่ายความดีนะครับส่วนลิงดำนั้นเป็นฝ่ายของความชั่วนะครับซึ่งลิงสองตัวนี้นะครับเป็นสิทธิ์ของพระอาจารย์เดียวกันนะครับแต่วันนี้นะครับไม่รู้ว่าเพราะสาเหตุอันใดนะครับเกิดการทะเลาะกันใหญ่นะครับก็เป็นการไล่จับกันนะครับเป็นการต่อสู้กันนะครับเป็นสิทธิ์
Alright, so that's Namyai. Now, who can give me an opinion about what that scene was about? Anyone?
Courting.
Maybe in certain countries. No, it's actually a battle. And you'll see he did this, one time he did this like spinning kick or punch or something. And the victor is symbolized by standing on top of the other person, right? That symbolizes victory in the fight. Now, they would see this many times in the course of their life, and they would already know the plot, but they would rewatch it and rewatch it. Now, Namyai, now when Thais say I'm going to watch a film, they will still often say do nam, right? Go and watch skin, hide, right? That expression is kept going. But we do the same thing. Now, I'm thinking of going and watching a film today, but it's no longer celluloid, it's no longer film, it's like digital, right? So, also growing out of the Ramakien was Kone theatre. It's a sort of very stylized form of dance. And it's again, it's very beautiful. And for a long time, only royalty was allowed to watch this. Right? This is how much they felt possession of this whole myth of the Ramakien. So we're going to see an extract of that. So, you can see it still has a sort of aesthetic origin with the Namyai. You know, they strike these poses, these set stationary pieces of posture in the courses of the battle to indicate who's got dominance over the other person. They'll stand up above them and stuff. Now, and this still goes on in other visual forms. I'm going to show you a brief. This is beautiful. Hope it looks like it.
การเงินทศกัณฐ์เรื่องราวของนนทุกข์อสูรผู้ใช้พระศิวะณเขาไกรนาถและไล่รับขอนยุเพชรเมื่อชี้ไปที่ใครก็สั่งมาผู้นำได้จนสร้างความวุ่นวายให้ทั่วแดนสวรรค์ร้อนถึงพระนารายณ์ต้องจำแรงกายเป็นหญิงงามมาหลอกล่อจนนนทุกข์เสียท่าเมื่อนนทุกข์รู้ว่าหญิงงามคือพระนารายณ์แปลงจึงตัดพ้อว่าตนมีเพียง2 มือจะสู้พระนารายณ์ซึ่งมีถึง4 ตนได้อย่างไรพระนารายณ์จึงให้นนทุกข์ไปเกิดใหม่ให้มีถึง10 หน้า20 มือแล้วพระองค์จะตามไปเกิดเป็นมนุษย์มีเพียง2 มือแต่จะฆ่านนทุกข์เสียให้ได้และนี่คือต้นกำเนิดการศึกสงครามอันยาวนาน
Look in the background, the tribute to Namyai.
ที่มหาตยศาลาวิลละครเล็กนำเสนอด้วยรูปแบบการเชิดบุตรที่สนุกสนานและงดงาม
Wonderful. So, this is the second biggest cultural influence. Now, as you can imagine, you couldn't really have a puppet show about the life of Buddha or things like that because it's too easy to upset people. But this you could have all sorts of visual aesthetic about, right? I'm going to briefly talk to you about it's a sprawling epic, and I'm going to just briefly tell you some major plot points. The demons were originally slaves, mistreated slaves. There's one getting mistreated, Totsakan. Totsakan, the head demon, was given the power from the gods of being able to kill by pointing at someone. And this is why you don't point to people at Thailand, because that's considered like you want me to die. And because he got that power, he was able to rebel. There was big battles, and he was able. The demons formed their own kingdom. So they had a separate kingdom. Meanwhile, Prince Rama, the heir apparent to the throne, is in search of a bride, and he sees Princess Sita. They don't know they're princes and princesses, but they fall instantly in love. She is the most beautiful woman in all creation, and she thinks he is the most beautiful man. So, and he's able to bend this special bow, and so the king gives him permission to wed Princess Sita, and they are desperately in love. Now, the king is getting old, and everybody expects and wants Prince Rama to come to the head of the throne. But many years previously, the king had his life saved by this woman in a forest, and he said, I promise you, anything you ever ask for, you get one. It's like the genie in the lamp, right? But you only get one wish, and I will make it happen. So she comes back as he's getting old and wishes for her son to become king. So the king goes, I have to keep my word. See this thing about honourable kings, right? I have to keep my word. Your son will be king. And then she says, but everybody loves Prince Rama. He needs to leave the city for 14 years and go and stay in the forest so that because the people will rebel against my son and make him king. And Prince Rama, the king explains it to him. Prince Rama, in all his modesty, goes, all right, I agree that I will stay in the forest for 14 years. Again, see, there's like this modesty, this sort of keeping your word, humbling yourself to the will of the Father. So he goes and lives as a peasant, and Princess Sita and Rama's brother put on peasant clothes and go and live in the forest with him. Enter Samanaka, female demon. She hears this rumour about this guy who's really good looking, and like the best looking guy ever, and she thinks, that sounds good, I think I might like him. So she goes and spies on him bathing and goes, me likey, me wanty. And so she transforms herself into this beautiful maiden, pretty hot if you ask me, but then he goes, well no, I'm in love with Princess Sita, she's my life, so I can't sleep with you. So Samanaka gets really pissed, and she tries to attack and kill Princess Sita, but of course Rama defends her and defeats the demon Samanaka and chops her hair off, just chops her hair off. So she goes sobbing back to Totsakan, king of the demon kingdom, going, ooh, Prince Rama attacked me and chopped my hair off and unspeakable things without provocation. So Totsakan gets really shirty. And then she also said, oh, by the way, his wife is like the most beautiful woman ever. And Totsakan is a very jack the lad. And so he thinks, ooh, that sounds good. And so there's this slightly convoluted plot, but then he runs off with Sita, takes him back to the demon kingdom. And now it suddenly takes an unrealistic turn, because when he gets her back to the demon kingdom, he doesn't have his way with her straight away, because he's advised by the seer Pipek, his wiser brother, who's like an astrologer and stuff, not to touch her because bad things will happen astrologically if he does, blah, blah, blah. And so then there's a war against the demons, and Hanuman fights for the humans and rescues Sita, and etc., etc. Eventually, the demons win the war. Yes, no they don't. The humans win the war. It's a very big sprawling epic. Beautiful aesthetic. I met the artist who did this, he did a little bit of work for me on something. Now, you can see why this sort of was embraced by and influenced the thought patterns of the Chakri dynasty that became Rama. That's why the name's called Rama. They really admired the example that the people set in this myth, the royalty. Being humble, being true to your word, keeping your promises, being obedient to your father. Even after they want him to come back into the city, Prince Rama says, no, I said I'd stay here for 14 years. I have to fulfill my 14 years in the forest. Now, I'm not an expert on Thai soap operas, but Thai soap operas are different to the West. In the West, we want like days of our life that last like 20, 30, I don't know how many decades, right? But in Thai, they expect a soap opera has a certain sort of time length. And it'll be comparatively short, and it'll come to the end, and then they'll reboot it with pretty much the same plot. And different actors and different milieu and stuff. And a lot of the sort of characters and plot drivers really come from the Ramageddon, you know, the evil woman conspiring, blah, blah, blah. And of course, mostly the actors are Kroon, they're like half Malay, half Thai. Some other odd bits and pieces to fill out the time, just because I think they're worth knowing. You've seen these around, right? These roosters in entrance to places, and you think, what the hell is a rooster doing standing at the entrance to a bar? Well, you see, in Thailand, roosters are martial animals. Right? Big history of cockfighting. So they're like martial animals. So it's like having a symbol of a vicious dog or something to keep away bad spirits and stuff at the front of your place. And of course, these are quite common. They're supposed to bring good luck, phallic symbol, animism and stuff. You know, you want your bar to be fruitful, you have that. Also, you can't have images of Buddha in bars and stuff. These, of course, is a naga, which feature in the Ramageddon. And I had a friend who did a short documentary, and this woman, it was about nagas, and this woman said, from our country, said, I've seen a naga 3 times in my life. And it's not as if they're like biologically impossible. Have a look at this creature. So it could well be that nagas are based on a real thing. Also, of course, if you go out country, the Thai tradition is richest person pays. Now that's usually always going to be you. So if you go out country, and suddenly you'll find out that the family's much bigger than you thought it was. You thought there was like 2 sisters, and suddenly there's like, how many people is this person related to? But you're expected to pay, not because you're Farang, but because they think you're the richest person. Most Thais can't conceive of being able to even get on an airplane at some stage in their life, more or less fly to another country and live in it. So they assume you're the richest person, and therefore you would want to pay. And don't expect any thank yous, because it's good karma to pay. But I was talking to this guy, he said, oh, yeah, I went to one of these big family things, but there were some rich relatives from Bangkok, and they said, no, we've got more money than you, we're going to be paying you. Right? So stranger things have happened. Right? Chantaburi. Who's been to Chantaburi? It's only a few hours drive east. It's a charming, wonderful place to go. And it means City of the Moon. It's a Sanskrit, name from Sanskrit. And this is the symbol of Chantaburi, a rabbit. Who here knows why the symbol of the City of the Moon is a rabbit? Anyone? All right. Well, here's the thing. When we look at the moon, we see a man in the moon. We see these big round eyes, right? That's what we see. Thais and Asians don't have round eyes. So they don't see a man in the moon. They see a rabbit in the moon. Next time you go and look at a full moon, look for the rabbit ears. I was saying this to a Thai lady. I was saying, you know, when we look at the moon, we don't see a rabbit, we see a man in the moon. She said, how can you not see a rabbit? There's like ears, right? So this is what they call pareidolia. This is a tendency to see faces and things. And this is a shot from Mars, and people have gone, oh, there's a face, somebody must have constructed a face. But here's this fascinates me. This really fascinates me. It somewhat freaks me out. Just think about this. There's billions of people on the planet who look at the moon and see a face. Who do not know, there's billions of people who look at the moon and do not see a face, but see a rabbit. Who do not know, there's billions of people on the planet who do not see a rabbit and see a face. That's really freaky. And this is actually really close. It's called Wat San Suk or Wan San Suk. Who's been there besides me? It's a great place to visit. It was really quite close. You know, it's a really inspiring place. It's a picture of Buddha's hell, right? Naraka. The idea is, if your karma gets so bad, your soul becomes so heavy, you can't incarnate into human form anymore. So you have to go down to Buddhist version of hell, which is more like purgatory, and suffer, have pain inflicted commensurate with your sins. This woman has been apparently, I don't know, lying or something. Goodness gracious me, in Thailand, who would think? And so she is actually, you know, undergoing pain. So, but the demons are doing a good job, because by having the pain inflicted on them, then they can resume normal incarnations and hopefully, you know, become Buddha, enlightened, and escape the wheel of samsara, of reincarnation and suffering. So it's, and just kids can wander in here. So if you want to scare your kids about bad behaviour, say, this is what's going to happen to you. It's a fascinating place. And finally, the money tree. Now, if you go to a temple, you don't hand money over to a monk. And women in particular are not supposed to go anywhere near touching a monk. And what they do is they have this money tree. And you put money in this symbolic tree. Now, where this comes from is, in the old days in the villages, monks would make their robes by just collecting cloth and old clothing that people had cast off and they dyed, and they'd sew it into robes. But of course the villagers wanted to be more helpful than that. So they would get good cloth and they would hang it out in the trees near the village, and then the monks would find it. It would be like a cloth tree. And over time that evolved into the money tree, which you'll see in temples today. And that's all I got for you.
Yes, friends, I could start you off over here, on your left.
Hi, Red. Good talk. Thank you. Where was that place that's local, where all these images are?
It's less than an hour's drive away.
Yeah, whereabouts?
Well, you'll have to look it up. I'm sorry, I only had since Friday 5 o'clock to put this together. So it's, sorry? But you have to look it up on Google. I'll tell you what, we'll put a link to a map in the next newsletter for you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Hello.
Good job, Brent. Thank you very much. One question. I've been to temples all over Thailand, beautiful temples, and my question is that you showed many pictures of angry people, animals, beautiful ladies with big teeth and all that stuff like a vampire. When did the smile, the land of smiles, come into land?
Well, a lot of those are demons.
With what?
A lot of those pictures I showed of people, angry people, were the demons.
Right, I understand. But where did,
They're not great
who got the
smiles.
land of smiles in? Because I know that years ago that I've been here 10 years, and King Number 9 said that he wanted to bring the smiles back into Thailand. I remember him saying that. So where did that come from, you know?
Well, just generally, there's a few different points that could be made. Generally, people from warmer climates tend to be more smiley, like Fiji, etc. I was in Russia, I used to walk around smiling, but after 4 days of walking around in Russian snow, I tended to stop smiling. So partly it's the climate, but also I think I talked about last time how Thais, when they meet somebody for the first time, they don't really know whether they're above or below them in the hierarchy, so they'll just smile and hope to get some clue about where they fit in together. And I put this slide in specially for...
Sorry.
Sorry, something's going on.
I think you were done.
You know how I work, Brad. What have you done?
I unplugged it.
I'll come back to that point in a second.
Good talk, Ren. I didn't know about the rabbit in the moon, and I did know about the proverb, Kratai John, rabbit wishing for the moon.
Oh,
When
right.
some girl asked for something, you say that to her. But pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's fascinating about the moon thing. Going back to Ron's,
Go back.
this is not the last slide. What's happening?
Trying to
So,
Go on.
Ren, you said something, the expression about go and look at the skin, about looking at the deer hide with the carved figures in it.
Yeah, do
What
none.
is the expression, and what is do we have an equivalent expression in English?
Yeah, do none is what see none, film, which is originally hide. We see watch film, right? Even though it's not on film anymore, it's not on cellular, we still see watch film, watch a film.
Thanks.
I think we're in. Okay. So I put this on especially because I was thinking of Big Ron. What Thais love, because there's this whole thing about hierarchy and they meet someone for the first time and just smile and hope you fit in with them and where you are in the hierarchy. But Thais love clown figures that make them laugh and dissolve all that thing. This is one of the great Thai comic actors. And very, very popular in Thailand. So something like Big Ron comes on with his big laugh and everybody's my friend and stuff. And they love that because then it dissolves all the issues around social hierarchy, where they are in the hierarchy and stuff. But we've seen Thais tend to be a bit less smiley than they used to be. It's becoming a little bit like the land previously known as the land of smiles. And some of that is just serving the internet and having consumer loans. Starting to have the sort of worries they have in the West.
Outstanding, Ren. Thanks very much. The thing that's changed most in my village is internet connection. And the phone now is an essential ingredient for the dirt poor and up to whatever echelons. And it's suitable for me because I'm down in Toronto. So I use a language translator, which I see around here a lot. And all my family stays online. This has been a really huge thing. So my partner calls her family at a time. They exchange photos and videos. They use it as a dating app. Facebook, they really have an obsession with Facebook and selfies. And one of the things that's influenced all the Thai economy is now internet shopping with Lazada. So that's changed.
Not just in Thailand, of course, there's all these retail shops in Australia closing for exactly the same reason, is that people might go and look at something in a shop and then they'll go online and find out if it's cheaper or something there.
Red.
Yep.
Thank you very much for a very diverse and rich presentation. I liked in particular the linguistic part in the middle. I also enjoyed the Ramayana and traditional stuff at the end. But coming to the World Bank statistics stuff at the beginning, right, which is also, I think, observable by the average person. I mean, the families are smaller. There's an increase in credit and also consumerism. But I was wondering what your take is regarding the land of smiles point that the other gentleman made. Namely, like the increase in the smaller families, the rural-urban migration, all the drivers of globalization and commercialism. How has that affected the culture? In other words, is Thailand smiling more, or is Thailand smiling less, or about the same?
I have no doubt that Thailand's smiling less than it was, just in my time. And partly that's like the internet. How are you going to smile when it gets down on the phone all the time, right? And you're not engaging people. When you engage people, the smile is a great way to engage people. The way to feel appreciated in Thailand is always start with a smile, always start positively and stuff. So it's no doubt in my mind that people are smiling less. And partly that, I talked about Thais having, their language is very much in the now. Well, when you start giving them debt, there tends to be more thought about the future, etc. And I was talking to my friend that I mentioned before, and he's had this sister who bought one of these ridiculously large cars, and she made payments for years, but then she couldn't make the last 8 payments, and then another sister stepped in and made the last 8 payments and ended up owning it. So this gives you when you're in debt, you really have more worries to think, and you're just not in the moment where you can smile and stuff. So there's a lot of different factors contributing to that.
Hi, Red. Sorry. I wanted to make a comment about the Thai written language. I don't know, are you familiar with the Fidel chart? The beautiful thing about the Thai written language is that when you see a specific character, that character is always going to have the same sound. Whereas in English, and this is what befuddles so many people trying to learn English, is that, take for example the letter E. You think of all the different pronunciations and different words of how that can be used. The same thing with all of our vowels and a lot of the consonants even. So there's this thing called the Fidel chart, and this is what really helped me a lot, is that you can actually find it on the internet in several languages where they have broken down the character of the language. The Thai Fidel chart takes one little square, because as I say, when you see a character, it always has the same sound. Whereas the Fidel chart for English, I think, has about 10 or 11 pages, because it has to represent each sound of each character. So that's, you know, one thing that once you get to know it, it really helps. And the other thing is that, like you say, the tenses. I think this is a beautiful thing about Thailand, and it really, again, it really messes up people that are trying to learn it, is why do we need all those tenses? I mean, if I say I go yesterday, you know what I mean. If I say I go tomorrow, you know what I mean. You know, why do we need all these silly, and that's a hard point to get across. Anyway, if there's time afterward, I have one other comment to make about the Thai health thing.
I'm not sure I totally agree with you. Firstly, I do agree with you that there's a huge amount of anomalies in any language, especially English, about pronunciation and stuff. But it's also, for instance, Song Pracharan, Long Live the King. The song is actually a TR and stuff, right? So there are exceptions, and sometimes consonants at the beginning of the word are pronounced differently to how they're pronounced at the end of the words. Sometimes they don't pronounce the consonant at all at the end of the words because they just trail off. Football is footborn, you know, it's...
This is true, but that chart takes care of all that.
Yeah.
Even in that little small chart.
So there are exceptions, but of course there's a massive number of exceptions in English as well. Jojo.
Back to families, smaller families, maybe one of the reasons is it's hard to make love when both people are looking at their phones and trying to text.
It depends really whether your partner's ugly or not. I mean, you know, if you've got a picture of a sexy woman on your phone or a sexy man, maybe it's easier, I don't know. Hello, just join
I just wanted to, I was last month in Bangkok, so I missed your talk, and I wonder if there's something on the internet.
Yeah, the talks on the internet has had 250 plus views. We'll put it on the newsletter again.
Okay, and then I just wanted to make a comment. I did study Sanskrit, and I didn't study all that much, but I was interested in trying to understand some of the text. But I could tell that there is a lot of connection between English and Sanskrit. English and Russian and Sanskrit. I didn't see. They're all three Indo-European languages. But concerning the smiles, you know, you're absolutely right. You know, if a girl smiles at you over there, a pretty girl smiles at you in Russia, that's the time to get a phone number. That's what it means. And they don't smile because the smile could be misinterpreted. So smile really is a dangerous thing over there in Russia.
Yeah, no, this is what I learned when I was in Russia. It's like you go from Thailand to say Russia and all these, and you see the Russians here, they walk around really serious. It's like, I am Russian, I am serious, I am auditioning for KGB. It's like, why are these people smiling? And it's like, well, because, you know, it's been proven that if you smile, can't smile, the person's back at you, you feel better, they feel better. No, they are faking you, you're just not real. Literally, I had a conversation that exactly how that went.
I wanted to ask about the ghost. It's difficult for me to hear about the ghost. I understand it's their country, I understand all it's the customs things, but for instance, my girlfriend's mother lost someone. She has now moved to a different room in a different house and pays another woman to sleep with her. Simply because of ghosts, And sometimes I want to say, that's silly, but anyway, it's just an amazing story. And maybe the rest of us have stories of how far this ghost thing goes. It will change all the behaviors of many things that these people do, and I just see it as detrimental, but anyway, it's difficult.
Yeah, the other thing is that Thais grow up, well, traditionally, but not anymore, in group beds. I'm sorry, but this guy was renting out his room that he actually, this Thai guy, studio that he bought to live in. But he said, I can't sleep, I'm sleeping by myself, you know? It's driving me crazy. My friend who I mentioned before, he's got a boy who's like 13, and he still sleeps in the bed with his mother and still wants the mother to sleep in the bed with him. It's a very Thai thing, is sleep in group beds.
I just want to say some supportive thing about the phone. Most Thais don't read. I know lots of Thais, they don't read. But it's a visual pedagogy, different learning style. So my girlfriend is always on YouTube, Facebook, and stuff like that, and that's how she learns. And it's, you know, I say it with my family up there, they probably have a pre-primary education, but it's opened a big world for them, and so it's a very positive thing about technology.
Yeah, no, it's a, you know, obviously it's a two-edged sword. I mean, this is now, people say, oh, people don't read as much. They're reading heaps, but they're reading it on their phones and, you know, and their computers now. They're just not reading books and stuff. And the educational, I mean, look how educational YouTube is. And it's actually, in a way, much more natural to learn from visual demonstration on YouTube than to read a set of instructions in a book, which should get you back into talk about, you know, video learning and stuff.
I just want to go back to the concept of smiling. A lot of times when you're riding a lot bus here or you're just walking by people, you'll make eye contact with them. And normally, people don't smile when you do that. But I realized that I had the choice to smile at them. And I find that people want to smile here. If I smiled at somebody in the States, I might get my face slapped. But here, people really do want to smile. I've smiled at people and they immediately smile back because they want to smile. I don't think they do on their own because of all the factors you mentioned up front. But smile at people. They'll smile back at you.
I do exactly the same thing. And if they don't smile back, it makes me smile more broadly because I'm so glad I'm not them. So it's like, you know, yes, start with a smile, right? Feel better whether they smile back or not, right? I do. And people here generally come to Thailand to be friendly, you know. If you want to live in as a social leper and be lonely and stuff, stay in Australia or America or...
Yes, enjoyed the informative talk. I noticed at Sawanapum, they have like 12 or 13 of those giants. Is that informative or is that for, you know, to keep bad things from happening at the airport?
I would say, broadly speaking, that's for decoration, really. Because, and it's great that they have those Thai-style decorations. Usually, if you're trying to keep bad juju away, you have it at the front of the entrances of bars or houses or whatever it is. So it's not really about good luck or something. It's more like a decoration referencing Thai culture. And you'll actually see big billboards now where they're trying to stop people using Buddha as a sort of decorative symbol in their homes. So you can all switch to demons and these things. No problem with that. Go on.
Hey Ray, great talk. One thing I picked up on in your speech I found fascinating was the idea that Thais tend to avoid, they want new homes and new cars because, again, the concern of ghosts. So I'm sure many people in this room own property here, condos and homes. Is it virtually impossible to sell a lived-in property to a Thai? Or how does that affect the real estate market?
It does affect the real estate market, but of course they're happy to buy it to rent out to somebody else. So what you'd really want to do is see if you can get a long-term renter in, and then that would then sell it to a Thai. That would make it much more attractive to them and stuff. They're not really worried about owning it; they're worried about living in it.
Okay.
He doesn't need a mic. We all know that.
You know, about this ghost thing, I've been, what do you call it, picked on for being a ghost deal. It happened to me. But what's the difference between a ghost thing and they put like a curse on you. Is that the same thing? Different, huh?
No, a curse is a whole different kettle of fish.
Okay.
They could curse you to have a ghost.
Yeah, because you guys have both.
That explains a lot. Okay, cool. Yeah, usually the curse is in like the West End of I do. Can you take this woman or this man?
But the ghost is a Buddha thing, isn't it still?
No, it predates Buddhism and all that sort of thing. It's Buddhism really isn't that much into ghosts, really. It's into reincarnation and transcending reincarnation. But obviously there's a soul, they talk about earthbound souls, but also Buddhism is very diverse, right? Very hard. Like I've had monks, senior monks in here, and I say, can you tell me what Buddhism is in 17 words or less? And they say, no. Right? Don't ask me what Buddhism is, I can't give you an answer.
I like old houses as ones that are derelict, but look like a good solid structure that would be great to get and do up. I pointed out a couple recently to my girlfriend, and she says, oh no, I couldn't live there, somebody's probably died in it. And I said, but look at this village, it's 100, 200 years old, people have died in every one of these houses, you know, but just because that particular house looks like that, the conclusion is somebody's died in it.
Well, also, it's like a voluntary purchase, whereas in the village, you don't have really a choice about where you're going to live, etc. Right? It's like you're making a voluntary purchase. Why would you voluntarily purchase something that somebody could have died in, etc.? And there's various gradations of ghosts. The worst ghosts are women who've died in childbirth, right? Because they've two spirits have died at once, so that can be very bad juju.
Ren, one of the things that I've noticed is that classic cars are only for foreigners. It's very rare that you see ties with classic cars because it's not new.
Yeah, no, exactly. There's a very, very big cachet on new.
Yeah, can you explain to me about this second home, second car? I see a lot of it where they put these symbols above the door, particularly on a house, and then they do it on the bonnet of a car. Is that the same reason you were talking about?
Yeah, no, it's all to do with this sort of idea of keeping away evil spirits and stuff like that. I wonder if the ties need to become more involved in the idea of purifying energies rather than just trying to ward off bad energies. But yeah, very much like they tend to see cars as a sort of boat, but they should like have stuff on the prow of the boat, prow of the car and stuff to keep away bad juju.
Hi, Ren. Is it possible for any Thai person to put a curse on another, or does the Thai person have to attain a certain status before they would put a curse on?
Not really too much over Thai curses and stuff, but I would think they're not too fussy about who they might curse and stuff. But generally, I don't think most Thais would think they have the spiritual power to curse someone. They probably want to go to somebody who, pay someone who has that sort, they perceive as having that spiritual power to do it.
Yes. Seems like maybe one of the reasons that the Thai woman could convince the Falang to buy a new house or a car is to say, well, I'll have a curse put on you.
Yeah, well, as long as you don't say I do, you're probably not going to experience a really bad curse.
Yes, concerning curses, if you want to put a curse on somebody in this country, you go out in the countryside and have somebody capture a monitor lizard for you. In like a shop or something has cheated you, you take the monitor lizard over to that shop and let it loose in that shop. And you'll put a big curse on that shop, and he has to spend, the owner has to spend a lot of money to bring a bunch of monks in and get rid of the bad spirits.
There you go.
That's how they do curses.
I'm going to start up a monitor lizard business. There you go. Thank you for sharing that. That's interesting. We're done.